AFR Talk.
You're listening to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. One more soundbite, then we'll go right to the phones. You know, Art Carney. Art Carney. Well, Jay Carney, Art Carney. One's a spokesman, one's a comedian. Sometimes hard to tell which is which. Anyway, Jay Carney has stepped down as the spokesman for President Obama. Josh Earnest has replaced him. He seems like a really, really nice guy. He's pretty fluid. He's pretty good at what he does, and I don't know how long he's going to last. I was amazed that Jay Carney lasted as long as he did, when every day you have to go out there and you have to spin and nuance and finesse and bob and weave and sometimes tell things that you know are outright lies. I mean, I don't know how people can even do it. So we'll see how long Josh Earnest lasts. You know, one of the things we've talked about is President Obama has made a big deal about how we don't leave anybody behind in uniform. Well, and part of my response to that is, well, Bergdahl wasn't in uniform. He left his uniform behind. He was a deserter. We don't rescue deserters. We apprehend them. We arrest them. So he wasn't in uniform. He had rejected the uniform. He left a note behind saying he wanted to renounce his American citizenship. So anyway, if the philosophy here is we don't leave a soldier in uniform behind anywhere, well, what about this Sergeant Tamaresi, who is rotting down in that Mexican jail just on the other side of the border? What about him? Here's Ed Henry, Fox News, and here's one of the reasons why Fox News is trusted and CNN is not, and MSNBC is not, and NPR is not. At least they do genuine journalism at Fox News. Here's Ed Henry asking Josh Earnest about Sergeant Tamaresi.
Couple quick questions on Bergdahl. On Friday, the head of the VFW sent a letter to President Obama saying, now that you've secured the release of Sergeant Bergdahl, when are you going to secure the release of the Marine Sergeant who's in a Mexican prison? And specifically, the head of the VFW asked, what is the President, we've heard about Secretary Kerry and others, what is the President personally doing to get this Marine out of the Mexican prison?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me draw a distinction between the Marine that you're citing in the Mexican prison and Sergeant Bergdahl. Sergeant Bergdahl was being held by the Taliban, who was engaged in an armed conflict with the United States and coalition forces. And so what was conducted to free Sergeant Bergdahl was a prisoner exchange. And this is something that has been part of winding down armed conflicts for centuries. And you know, as the President mentioned in his news conference in Europe, this is something that previous presidents, going all the way back to President Washington, have had to grapple with. That exchanging prisoners at the end of an armed conflict is a necessary part of ending wars, and that's something that this president's committed to. Now,
but back to the
So separately, I don't have a lot of information to provide you in terms of the current efforts underway.
But is the President pressing to get him back or not?
Well, certainly the President is concerned about all detainees or Americans who are being held against their will in other countries. And this is something that the President is certainly concerned about. But in terms of what specific efforts are underway, I'd refer you to the Department of Defense.
So Josh Earnest, learning from the master, I would refer you to the Department of Defense. If I don't know an answer, I don't want to answer. I want to try to reserve some shred of my own dignity, but by not lying through my teeth. I'll just send you off to talk to somebody else. So in other words, the answer to the question is President Obama is not doing anything. Because realize if President Obama was doing something personally to try to get this Marine out of the Mexican prison, that's the first thing that Josh Earnest would talk about. This is what the president is doing. Instead, he talks in these generic platitudes about the president's commitment to all American detainees. So the answer to the question is obvious. He's not doing anything to get Sergeant Tamaresi out of the Mexican prison. Let's go to the phones. Let's begin with Robin, Hickory, North Carolina. Robin, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I wanted to tell you, first of all, I don't think you were too hard on Marine Hart. I heard that entire exchange. Sandy Rios played it, and she was lying her butt off, just saying, oh, no, we did tell them, and with Andrea Mitchell, and Andrea Mitchell surprisingly just kept saying, no, that's not right. But the other thing I wanted to ask you is, I called my congressman yesterday, and I wanted to know what they were doing to pursue the illegality of the president releasing these Taliban, that he wasn't supposed to do it. He had signed a law saying he would give Congress a notice. And the person in my representative's office said, "Oh, no. He added a statement to that law saying he could do it in emergencies." I heard Dianne Feinstein herself say he signed it without statement, and I kept trying to press him on that, and he said, "No, he definitely signed a statement saying he could do it," and I just want to know where I can get the proof to call my congressman's office back and say, "You don't know what you're talking about."
Was this a Republican or was it a Democrat?
It's a Republican, and he's
well.
he's
See,
he usually receives 100% rating from FRC and.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Robin, what's going on here. The Republicans have already decided that they are not going to impeach Obama. They've already decided that. The leadership has been communicating that the last 2 days. Impeachment is off the table as far as they're concerned. They think politically it's too risky. And I got a problem with that, speaking personally, because if you believe this is a president that merits impeachment because his actions are endangering our constitutional republic and the security and stability of the American people, then I believe you have a duty to your country to pursue what remedies are at your disposal. The only one that's at our disposal now is impeachment. If he's going to be stopped, that is the only way it can be done. So to me, these Republicans, by saying we've taken impeachment off the table, essentially the bottom line here is they're saying I care more about the political future of my political party than I care about the future of the United States of America. Now I can
I'm sorry, Brian. The guy kept saying, I said, this guy is a deserter. He's a traitor. His own men in his platoon have testified about that. And he kept saying, well, now we don't have any proof of that. I said, what do you mean you don't have proof of that? They're telling you he did it.
Yeah.
And he kept on. I said, look, really, you don't have to give me these politically correct answers. I know the whole story. I know I've listened to good, reliable news sources. I know it's true. And I just want to know what you guys are going to do to stop this madness that's going on from the White House. And he just, it drove me nuts him trying to tell me this. Just trying to placate me is what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and that's right. And yeah, they're hoping that they can fool us. That and President Obama did sign a signing statement with the 2014 law, the latest one. But signing statements do not give a president. He can offer some explanation, but a signing statement does not give a president an excuse to violate the law. If that's what he's using a signing statement to do, that signing statement isn't worth anything. So the fact that he issued some kind of signing statement doesn't mean that he's got now carte blanche to simply ignore the law. That is not how things work. All right, Robin. Well, listen, thanks for staying in touch with your congressman. We're just going to have to keep doing that. Just going to have to keep communicating with them and urging them to do what's in their power to try to serve as a check on this president if we care about the Constitution. All right, thank you, Robin. Let's go to Joel in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Joel, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hi.
Hey.
I want to thank God for AFR and you.
Thank you.
And I'm just thinking, what if this president is trying to get impeached on purpose?
Now, why would he do that?
To try to put the next one in charge, the one under him.
Oh, to put Biden in charge?
Probably. I'm just guessing on that.
Yeah, what I think, Joel. President Obama is probably capable of some pretty intricate strategies, but I honestly think that what President Obama is doing is he is daring the Republicans to impeach him. He realizes now that the Republicans are a toothless tiger. I mean, if they come right out and tell you, they've told the whole nation yesterday and today, impeachment is off the table, then what are they telling President Obama? We are not going to get in your way. There's nothing that we are going to do to stop you. You have carte blanche now. So I think President Obama just got his get out of jail free card from the Republican Party. They've just told him you can do anything that you want and you don't have a single solitary thing to fear from us because we are not going to use the one tool that we've got to try to exercise some restraint on you. So I think from a political standpoint, even if you're not going to impeach, you don't tell the president that you're not going to do it. You need to keep that sword sort of dangling over his head. And so I think President Obama, frankly, Joel, is going to continue to do things that are more outrageous. I mean, we're looking at what he's doing in Arizona. We didn't have time to get into all of the immigration stuff. Just plane load after plane load of unaccompanied children. He's now retrofitting 3 military bases to serve as daycare centers for unaccompanied minors. He's dumping them in Arizona, saying, here, just unloading them in Arizona, say, you take care of them. They're your problem, just pay back. And who's going to stop him? I mean, Jan Brewer can complain about it, but who's going to stop them from dumping more children in their state and converting more military bases to daycare centers, especially if the Republicans are saying we're not going to do anything to stop you. Even the things that we can do, we're not going to do. So I think President Obama is just going to continue to do more and more outrageous things. All right, Joel, last call of the day. Let's go to Keith in Ohio. Keith, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. One quick comment about our military. You know, they're losing confidence in their commander-in-chief. Is it possible that a lot of them will decide, you know, why take prisoners now? You know, what's the use of taking prisoners? They're going to end up back on the battlefield.
So meaning that they won't try to apprehend them, or they'll just shoot them?
Yeah, you know, just drop a bomb on them and stay there, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, and the reality is, anytime you have a misguided policy, it's always going to be bad for innocent people. Every policy that you craft that's misguided, that's not in alignment with the truth, that's not in alignment with common sense, eventually it's going to wind up hurting innocent people. Like the STREAM Act. It's supposed to be all about compassion. Get here before you're 16, you get to stay forever. Sounds compassionate. Not going to punish the children for the sins of the fathers. Now we are awash in hundreds of thousands of children with no parent to care for them. That's the fault of those who supported the DREAM Act, starting with Eric Cantor, John Boehner, even guys like Governor Huckabee and Rick Perry, who ought to know better. Well, that's it for today. Bow low before God, stand tall before man. Stand in the gap. Never forget, we're fighting a winnable war.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.